Hi, this is Erin from Blossy Bee. Welcome to my channel. Over the last little while, I've had some wonderful success creating crystal clear resin pieces with all of the elegance and brilliance of crystal clear glassware, but in unique forms you just don't find in home decor stores. My apple fairy house, the crescent moon, and the pineapple, they all turned out beautifully with that crystal clear finish that catches and reflects the light so beautifully. I absolutely love clear glass. It can be so dazzling in its simplicity, almost chameleon-like as it reflects the colours and light around it. But I've also had a lifelong love and admiration for coloured glass. I will never forget the stunning coloured vases my grandmother and mother collected, or the incredible collections of vivid sapphire blue and ruby red glassware I've been lucky enough to admire over the years. I was also once shown an amazing collection of uranium glass, and seeing those pieces glow under an ultraviolet light was something I'll never forget. Some of the most recognisable vintage coloured glass is depression glass. Produced mainly during the 1920s and 1930s, it was inexpensive, machine pressed glass that was often given away with groceries or household products to brighten people's homes during the hardships of the Great Depression. Another famous type is uranium glass, which contains a tiny amount of uranium, giving it its distinctive yellow-green colour and, of course, that remarkable ability to glow bright green under ultraviolet light. There's something about those rich, vibrant, unapologetically colourful pieces of glassware that has always captivated me. They almost seem too beautiful to be real. So, I've set myself a challenge. Can I bring the beauty of vintage coloured glass to life in resin? I'd love you to join me as we explore the colours, techniques, and little details that make vintage glass so beautiful. Hopefully, by the end of this video, we'll both have learned something new, and you might even be inspired to bring the timeless beauty of vintage coloured glass to life in some of your own resin creations. I'm so excited because I want to make some absolutely clear resin, and I'm going to use these molds here, a large and a medium standing bird, and then I'm going to tint the resin and have three different colours. So these little bird molds, I've got a large and a medium in each. I'm going to be using these transparent pigments. I've got grass green, ruby red and sapphire blue. And I'm going to use all the same resin. I'm not adding in any other colour at all. Now, this one's the tricky one. If you saw my previous video, the teddy bears, this is where that coloured resin came from. I filmed them one after the other, but because I do some extras in this one, I had to publish the second one first, if you know what I mean. This is this strange pigment. So when you add it in, it looks beautifully blue in the bottle. When you squirt it in, it looks blue. When you stir it in, it goes a browny colour. And I don't know why. I just can't get my head around it. The first time I used this was such a shock to me, and I did not think it was ever going to turn out, but it did. So I'll have to ask you to bear with me on this. But it does make it difficult to know how saturated to make the colour. So the blue that I'm going for is this most stunning sapphire or cobalt blue. And I remember, family members who've had this beautiful blue glassware. It has such an intensity to it. So that's what I'm going for here. Now the resin I'm using, I'll pop up on the screen here. I'm really happy with how this is going. My only concern has been that because it's winter in Tasmania and the weather has been cooler, I've been struggling to get it to cure in around about the 24 hours it's meant to. It's sometimes taking a couple of days. And so I'm adding in another element to this project, which I'll explain more about when we fully pour all of the resin. So I'm just making sure that I really thoroughly disperse the pigment through the resin, and then I'm going to decant into another cup before I pour, because I don't want to risk any little unmixed bits getting in from the cup. Now I'm going to be using the grass green, and this look, I know I can't ever duplicate uranium glass because of a whole lot of things. It's so unique, but I really love that colour. And there's also quite a lot of examples of depression glass that was this really unusual, bright, vibrant green. So using exactly the same technique as before, except this time I can actually see what it's looking like because it's true to its colour. Stirring that in, and then I'll also decant this into a cup on its own. This resin has a working time of about 60 minutes, by the way, so I know I've got plenty of time. The colour I'm using now is ruby red, and this is, I think, the first ever depression glass colour I saw, and it's just so beautiful. And my memory is of it as a large vase, and just the way the light shines through the bright ruby red is so beautiful. So it's exciting to see if I can actually recreate that look here. And I'm walking a little bit of a fine line between having it really transparent, but also I want to have that really deep, rich ruby red colour. So once I'm happy with it, I pop it into a separate cup, and now I've got all of my mixtures ready to pour, which is super exciting. I've decided to go back in and top up the blue one though. So the sapphire blue, or the one that looks a bit dingy brown, gosh, it's hard to work out if it's dark enough. I just keep squirting more blue in there and it turns brown, and I just have to really hope that I'm doing the right thing. So decanting that again, nice clean cup for that to go into, and that way I can be sure I don't have any little residual streaks of unmixed pigment. Now I have all of the resin poured and ready, it's time to prepare the moulds. So I've decided to give each of them a good squirt with the like a 99.8% isopropyl alcohol, and I'm using my finger to make sure that that alcohol is covering all of the inside surface, especially the potential problem areas such as the tails, the beaks, things like that. I'm just pouring the resin gently into the molds, and I'm really focusing on making sure that there is resin in the tail and the beak and the head. And then when I get to that about halfway mark, I'm just going to give it another squirt, and then I'm going to make sure that I've just manipulated the silicone mold in the areas where air bubbles are likely to be trapped, and then I'm going to sit them just towards the back of my workspace until I'm ready to move them over to where they're going to finish curing. Next, I'm going to pour the blue, well, it looks brown, doesn't it, mixture, and then that beautiful ruby red. And then finally, I'm going to prepare the two taller molds of birds, and this is the one I'm going to be using the just clear resin, nothing going in it, no sparkles, nothing at all. So this will be very interesting to me to see how these come out. And I've actually just popped these ones into a paper cup each because they could tip over. I've moved over to the Resin's G3 curing machine now, and I've set it up in tall mode, and I'm going to bring over each of the pieces and sit them around the tray. That little square shape in the middle, that area is where you can't put anything terribly high because there's a part of the equipment that comes down into there. So I'm just arranging everything around that. Then I go through and top them all up. Now some of them I did have to go back to the original cup and put a little bit more clear in and mix the teeniest little bit up, and that happens sometimes. The measurements I usually use when casting are quite precise, but sometimes I forget to take into account the fact that I'm transferring from one cup to another, doing that decanting, and you always lose an amount in that process. So once I have filled them all up to the top, I've got them so they are just absolutely at the top with the slightest dome. I'm just going to keep an eye on the temperature for the next couple of hours and have them covered so that they don't get any dust particles in them, to keep them as clear as possible. And then I will use the turn the G3 curing machine on and see how that goes. Okay, everything is cured, but there's always a big but, if you know what I mean. I put these into the Resin's G3 and turned it on after they'd been in there for probably 8 hours, when the temperature had dropped below what's optimum curing time for this resin, curing temperature. And I put it on for 2 hours and it went through its cool down. I checked they were still in a gel state. Put it on for another 2 hours and then waited overnight. And there's definitely a problem, and I'll show you. And I want to be really honest and upfront with you because I'm so keen about the idea of a curing machine. But if you look here, this was filled to the brim. It has now shrunk maybe 1 millimetre on that side and 2 to 3 millimetres on that side, and some of the resin is deformed. Now that is the same, they've all shrunk, all of them, and not anywhere near as much as they would do normally. These ones, look, we got blue. These ones have also got signs of probably curing too quickly, but we'll demold them and have a look because it could be just on the bottom. So remember, my goal was to try and have crystal clear resin. Oh, look. Oh, gosh. That is beautiful. So apart from this, which I can work on with sanding, the rest of it is just beautiful. Just flip my moulds back in the correct way. So we'll have a look at the larger of the two. Now on the bottle for the resin, it does actually say that curing at high temperatures can cause, I think, shrinkage and other issues. But of course, I had to push it. The other thing that I noticed was that when I put it into the G3 and set it onto tall, it first came up with 20 degrees Celsius. But when it finished, it was on 55. It was so hot. Wow. That is so gorgeous. So, again, issues down here. All right. Now we get on to the ones that I was trying to get to look a little bit like vintage glass. And remember, this is the blue that when you squirt the transparent pigment into resin, it turns a brown colour. It's just so crazy. But I haven't swapped them, I promise. Oh my goodness, I am loving this. Wow. Look at that. So again, the bottom is a bit rough because it's shrunk. But that blue, wow. So we'll have a look at this one now. Oops. Ow. And you know, I can't, look, I can see a couple of bubbles, just tiny little micro bubbles around the bottom, but in the main part of them, I can't see any. Look at that. Wow, like, that is gorgeous. I'll just flip these in the right way. So if anyone knows what's going on with that blue translucent pigment, please let me know in the comments, because it's crazy. I mean, as you can see, it is so blue. Now, that's got a scratch on it. Did I just do that demoulding? I'm going to pop some gloves on. Okay, so if I did that, I think I did. I mean, how else would it have happened? That's very annoying on my part. So, we'll see how this one goes. Oh, gosh. That colour is beautiful. It's not... wow. It's a very yellowy green, but gosh, that is just perfect. So again, shrinkage around the bottom. Okay, let's have a look at his big brother. wiggle out of its tail, but I can see already, I mean, this is just gorgeous. Wow, so this one has got some tiny little micro bubbles there. And if I had to make a guess, I would say that forcing this resin to cure before it's ready to cure has meant that whilst the resin's doing its job, all the little bubbles are coming up to the surface, but then I've applied this extreme heat and of course started the curing, and they haven't got anywhere to go. They can't. They just sort of basically freeze there. So I'll pop these ones in the right way. And then we'll have a look at the ruby red. Oh, I'm so happy so far with what we've got. I think these definitely have the look of a vintage glass. Now I'm just demoulding these with brute force at the moment because my hands are quite good at the moment, but you can always use some a squirt or two of soapy water. Some people use alcohol, but I don't know, I always feel a bit weird putting alcohol onto cured resin. I should do an experiment one day and find out if my fears are warranted or not. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, exactly the same. Wow. You know, you're not meant to have favourites, are you? But I'm looking at them thinking, oh, that blue. Now I'm looking at thinking, oh, that red. Okay. Oops. All right. Look at that. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to put these on a tray and take them outside so I can show you what they look like in the sun. It's not actually sunny, it's a very dull day today, but I think even so in the light you'll get a really good idea of what they look like. And you know, then for the sake of truly testing my hypothesis, I think I will make these two again, or maybe I'll make a pair of these in clear and a pair in another colour, and just don't put them into the G3 curing machine and try and keep them warm for as long as I can today, and then just see what happens. They might take a few days to cure, but then that wait could very well be absolutely worth it if it means that you get, you know, a stunning result. I'm so happy with these. I will need to do some work on the bases, but overall I think they're very beautiful. So I'll go and get that organised now. Okay, I have brought them outside. I'm only just holding my phone, so I'm sorry if it's really wobbly, but I just wanted to show you how beautiful and clear they are, and how vibrant they are. Uh-oh. Hello, Mims, my love. Hello. Watch. just look amazing. Okay, I have worked out 4 more colours that I'm going to do this in. I'm going to do all 4 sets again. I'm going for a lavender colour and I'm going to use violet. I'm going for a very light pale pink and I'm going to be using rose red, and I can already see the stains on my mould after that, but anyway. I'm looking for a really pretty light yellow, so I'm using lemon yellow. And then the sea blue is a little bit of a outlier. We're going to be going for a very pale blue. So I'll grab the first set of moulds and I'll give them a good spray with alcohol. And I've mixed up another big batch of that beautiful crystal clear deep pour resin. So in here, and here we go. So we'll do lavender first. It doesn't really matter, does it? It's exciting to get to see some more colours. So I'm going to go very light-handed. I'm just going to mix in that 1 drop and that'll give me a little bit of an idea of where we stand. Okay, so that's looking quite pink at the moment and it's looking like absolutely nothing on the stick. I might do 1, 2 more drops. And you know, I think that's going to be it. I think. Because even if I do end up with 2 pinks, what does it matter? And I want to try being very light-handed this time, because the first batch were all those really gorgeous intense depression glass colours and these are lighter versions of them. Alright, I'll pop them up the bag because I'm working on, I've got my levelling tray underneath, then I've got a large timber board and I've covered that with plastic wrap, and then I've got my silicone mat because I want to be able to put these somewhere they've got the best chance of being warm over the next few days, and I don't want to have to sort of move it because I need, you know, one of these things. I'm just going to saw, I'm not sure if you can, there's a tiny sort of a thread of pigment there and I do want to try and avoid that, so I'm actually going to pour into a fresh cup. Oh, I got definite glimpses of a lavender colour as I was doing that. Okay. All right, so at the moment it just looks like a pink, doesn't it? But as I said, even if it is, that could be very pretty. See, I can see there's a little bit of sediment of the colour in there. Look, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm sure it'll be pretty. Okay, so as usual, I'm partly filling them. I'll give them a quick spray of isopropyl alcohol. And then I'm going to just make sure that I squeeze the two areas on these that typically have issues, which are the beak and the tail. There we go. And then I think what I'll do is I'll just very carefully fill these up. Now that's interesting, my measurement is ever so slightly off, and I know why. It's because I decanted it and I didn't take all of the resin out. So I'm going to go back to my original pot, and I'm just going to add in another 5 grams, or mils, 5 mils, sorry. I'm not going to add in any extra colour because it will just sort of hopefully combine. Pour that into the clean mixing cup. It still might not be enough. Now, for the purposes of checking how these go compared to being put into the curing machine, I want to make sure they're absolutely full to the brim, and they are not necessarily domed. In fact, I'm not going to try and put the scrapes into there, but they are definitely full, and I'll be able to check when I'm demolding to see that they haven't shrunk, which was the issue with the first ones. Okay, well, that went well. Next colour. I'll just do a quick reset here. Okay, another lovely little pot of beautiful clear resin. Okay, so we'll do I'll do the yellow one so it looks a bit different. Again, looking for a very light, do 3 drops to start off with. I do want to make sure that it is yellow and it doesn't just look like resin that's hasn't done well in light or something like that. So for me, I don't think that's enough yet. So I've put another 3 drops in. So this is 170 mils of resin. Oh, this is where it's hard, isn't it? You don't know whether to keep going or whether to stop, and It's very difficult. Okay, so I'm definitely going to stop here. Scrape down all the sides. Okay, we'll grab our moulds. Again, I'm just going to spray them with some isopropyl alcohol and then make sure that I've got that all around the inside of the mould. I can go here. Perfect, and then I will decant this into another cup. Okay, so let's see if we can get a very pretty pale yellow. It's very pale, but that's okay. All right, I'm going to give those a squish, and I'm going to just check the tail and the beak. Now I can see quite a few bubbles there, so this time, before topping it up, I'm just going to leave it for a minute and I can start work on the next colour. Alright, now the next colour is going to be the rose red, but remember I'm looking for a very pale pink. Are you like me and every time you see a colour like this you cringe and think, that's going to be the death of my mould? There's just something about a couple of specific colours across different types of pigments that, oh. Alright, so that is very, very, very pale. This is one I really don't want to be heavy-handed with. Gosh, that is so pale, but I'm looking for pale. So, let me have a look on a piece of paper towel. Yeah, look, it's just nothing. Okay, that's 9 drops in total. And I just don't want to go any more than that. So worst case scenario, we'll have the palest of pale pinks. And I know that when I was researching depression glass, there was a very, very pale, I think it was called depression pink. Okay. Give that a squish. Pour. See, now I'm thinking that the violet one, which was hopefully going to be lavender, is just going to be way too dark. But anyway, we won't know until we try. Okay, before I do that, I'm just going to pour the rest of this. All of those bubbles just fairly naturally came to the surface and they've gone. Okay, perfect. Okay, for our last set of the smaller birds, give those a squirt and make sure that's in through everywhere. Pop these ones over here. Let's see what this looks like as we pour. So pale. I just hope I'm doing the right thing. Just wanted it to be sort of a whisper of a pale pink, like a very pale sort of a ballet slipper. Okay, I'll wait a minute again before I pour the next ones. Last batch is the sea blue. That is just so pretty. I'm not going to put any more in. I'm so happy with that colour. Might not have enough now that I've done it this way. That's okay. That is just so pretty. Keep my workspace nice and clean. Just makes it easier at the end. Okay, so I've put these two into a paper cup again because it, you know, minimises the risk of me knocking them over, which, let's be frank, is a fairly big risk based on past performances. Pale pink. This is one of those colours you like. Is it a blue or is it a green? It's that gorgeous, like sea glass. I think when I made the samples, the little dash hounds in the first sample video, that's what I just kept thinking about. Just looked like sea glass. Checking all their little bits are bubble free, hopefully. Make sure they're straight, which they are. So what I'll do is I'll give both of these a little spray. That one. We'll finish topping up pale pink. I've created a few bubbles there, so pouring too rapidly, I think. Okay. Yes, I thought that might happen. I have very good measurements for my molds usually, but if I'm doing a technique where I'm transferring from cup to cup, that's when it can become a little bit of an issue. So I'll just pop a little bit more clear into there. Get rid of that stick. And there's quite a few bubbles there. So I'm just going to wait 2 or 3 minutes until those bubbles dissipate, and then I will top them up. Okay, that's looking beautiful. A lot of bubbles coming through there, but I'm not in any hurry for these to cure quickly this time, remember? And we've got plenty of time for these bubbles to release. Perfect. Okay, so I'll keep an eye on these over the next few days and work out how long it takes for them to cure in our a little bit gloomy Tassie weather at the moment, and then we'll demold them and we'll be able to compare them with their siblings from the previous pour. I left these to cure naturally, and it took around about 3 days. So quite a long cure time, but I'm hoping it was worth it. Now, the first thing I want to point out is that there has been shrinkage. So about 1 millimetre. When I compared it to the ones that I did in the Resin's G3 curing machine, they had up to 3 millimeters. So it is less, but there is still some. Look at that. It's absolutely not lavender, but it's just glorious. Would it be like a rose pink, do you think? Just so pretty. And I can see straight away that none of them have any of those sort of deformities in the bottom of them that would indicate there'd been any issues with the curing. So my experience to date tells me that if you want absolutely crystal clear resin, to let it cure naturally and to use a deep pour resin. That's how I'm feeling at the moment. Now, I did reach out to resiners to have a chat with them about the G3 curing machine and to see where I might be going wrong with it and how I may have run into an issue. And the advice I've received back is that the two functions, the flat and the tall, operate quite differently. When you're on flat mode, it is one constant temperature, the one that you set. When it's on tall, you can't change it. It is an adaptive mode and it starts at 20 degrees and it finishes at 55 degrees and then goes into a cooling down period. Now that could be perfectly all right for what you're doing, but the recommendation that came from resiners with this project, if I do it again, would be to run the curing machine on the flat setting at around about 25 degrees. So I'm going to be testing that out. I absolutely 100% still love this machine. Just wanted to pass that on because I'm still learning all about it. Now let's talk about this colour. What colour is it? Is it turquoise blue maybe? It is just beautiful. They've come out so clear and the colours, well, they're just, this one's like almost barely there and I just think it's exquisite. The more I look at that rose pink on the top right there, the more I remember a vase that Mum had. I'm going to send this to my sister and see if she recalls it as well. It's just bringing back a lot of memories. All wonderful. Okay, let's have a look at this gorgeous, palest of pale pinks. I'm really happy with the restraint I was able to show with this one. I think it's come out quite beautifully. Again, it's just perfectly clear. There are no bubbles. There's just nothing at all except the gorgeous shape of this bird and the beautiful coloured glass. So really, really happy with that. And, oh, if I didn't show you the two turquoise blue ones together, there we go. And the last one is this lemon yellow. Now, I did find out in my research that the pink, the pale pink, was quite elusive and therefore is quite valuable if you have any depression glass that is that colour. And here we go with the yellow, and again, I'm so glad I didn't go in all heavy-handed with this one because it has this beautiful, delicate feel to it, and I think it just looks so lovely. They're just going to look so pretty on a windowsill or somewhere where the light comes in and catches them, because you can already see on my tabletop how the light is catching and deflecting. Just beautiful. Here I am out in the garden again with this little batch. So we've got that gorgeous sort of sea jade colour there, the pale pink, the lemon, and then this was going to be lavender, but it's turned out a really, really beautiful pink. Just had a little bit of sun pop through, and just look at how they catch the light. Here is the complete collection. This is the end result of the challenge to myself to see if I can come up with an effect of beautiful vintage coloured glass in resin. And I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. I'm going to show you now a photograph of each pair, and please let me know which is your favourite colour. And if you collect depression glass, uranium glass, or other vintage coloured glasses, I'd love to hear all about it. This is the clear glass, nothing added. This is the beautiful blue. Then we had that stunning red. Next up we had the amazing green. Then this barely there turquoise blue. Beautiful pale pink. A very delicate yellow. And lastly, this glorious rose pink. I am absolutely so impressed with this resin, with the colourings, and look, it just makes me want to go out and buy lots of depression glass. It could be problematic financially. Well, now I really want to experiment a little bit more, maybe with some larger moulds, maybe with some vases and dishes, and it's very exciting to think that we can use this resin in ways that can, reflect other eras in history. So I'm so grateful for you spending this time with me. Can't wait to read your comments, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye for now.